Hell's Paradise is an anime that I should have watched a long time ago. It came out in the summer of 2023 and I didn't even bother to give it a shot, but watching it now, I'm hooked. With season 2 around the corner, I'm figuring now is a better time than ever to give this series a shot. Our first scene of the show is of a man being executed. The narrator's going on about the amount of skill required for a beheading to take place. As we see him swing, nothing happens. They go on to explain that often beheadings take multiple attempts, which can honestly be a horrifying sight to see. But as this man, the executioner, is just hacking away, the prisoner breaks the executioner's sword with just his neck. And the prisoner, our main character, just looks up, wondering, why can't he die? He has a monologue as we get some context that he's an assassin. He says he never expected to live a long life in the first place, and he no longer has any attachments to this world. So once again, why can't he die? The next scene we get is of a reporter interviewing him while he's behind bars. The prisoner's name is Gabimaru. He's from a village called Iwagakure, a village known for producing very elite shinobi. Figuring out that this is the village that he's from, the reporter knows that breaking a blade with just his flesh would be a very simple task for him. And Gabimaru just says, of course, somebody who's that trash with the blade could never pierce my skin. I didn't even have to use ninjutsu. The reporter confirms if he can really use ninjutsu, asking him if he can show her, but once she says it's for personal reasons, he just denies. He don't really feel like it. Gabimaru's next execution was being burnt alive. The narrator says it's just a horrible process, so horrible that sometimes the executioners will kill the prisoner beforehand as a sign of mercy. But once they try, Gabimaru breaks their spears with his own skin. They go ahead and set him on fire, but still, it's not enough. After the second failed attempt at his execution, we're back at his cell, and he's saying that it's not like he's trying to avoid his death. If anything, he wishes that they could just up and kill him. The reporter is writing all of this down as they move on to the next topic, his backstory. Gabimaru isn't really interested in talking about it. He says it's nothing special, but the reporter says she's just got to do her job. So starting off with his backstory, he talks about his parents. He never really knew them. He was told that they were killed by the village chief while he was still a baby. He doesn't know why, but he doesn't really care either. Moving on to personal dreams and goals, he says that shinobi don't have any. They just kill as they're instructed. When she asks why he got captured, he stutters for a second, but says it was because he tried to leave the village. He was captured on a job and all of his fellow shinobi abandoned him. He knows that the village chief probably told him to do so because the village doesn't allow anybody to leave. So the reporter asks him why he tried to leave in the first place. But instead of getting an answer from him, we just see another execution attempt. But at this point, y'all know how this goes. The plan was to tie bulls to each of his ankles and have them run apart, splitting him from the groin up. But just upon a little bit of instinctual resistance, Gabimaru easily overpowers him. They didn't even stand a chance. The reporter was watching here the entire time throughout all the executions, as she says she noticed something real interesting. He claims that he wants to be executed, but throughout all of these attempts, he seems to be resisting. She's wondering why would somebody who has no will to live resist execution? But before he could even come up with the answer for that, she repeats her question from earlier. Why did he try to leave the village? Gabimaru just says it wasn't for any interesting reason. As the best shinobi in Iwagakure, he got recognition from the chief and married his daughter. But his daughter was a fool. He hated everything about how she lived her life and how she wanted him to live his. He's walking in the house, but she's saying, oh, take off your shoes before you come in and let's get to our prayers. We gotta pray at least once a day. We also gotta express gratitude for our food and just all this stuff that Gabimaru just got fed up with it. He didn't want to lose his edge as a shinobi and show any signs of weakness, so he asked the village chief to leave. The chief pretended to agree, but asked him for one last job, and on that last job was when he was set up. He could have escaped, but knew that if he did, then people from Iwagakure would follow him for the rest of his life. And rather than dealing with that, he just decided to let himself get caught and eventually get executed. He knows that it was dumb of him to try and defy the chief in the first place, so he just stopped resisting. Later that night, we get a conversation between the reporter and some random dude. I don't know what his name is. She's being warned about Gabimaru as he tells her about his other name known across the lands, Gabimaru the Hollow. He's called this because he's known as a very hollow man. No fears, emotions, blood, or tears. He's warning her not to get involved with them, as he explains that rumor has it the elixir of life, which grants immortality, is taken by the shinobis of Iwagakure. She's just putting herself in real danger by being around him. Over with Gabimaru, he's reminiscing on what the reporter was saying, as he admits that she's right. He honestly doesn't know what he's doing. We see that during that first execution, he flexed his neck muscles, hardening them so the blade broke on impact. He's wondering why he doesn't just let himself die, finally committing to the fact that tomorrow is going to be the day. But at the next execution, they tried to boil him alive, but he walked out through all the flames, leaving a trail of fire behind him. They used so much fire to kill him that they couldn't even contain it themselves. We got other people, the other executioners around him, dying at his execution while he's walking out alive. Gabimaru seems genuinely confused as to what's even going on. He doesn't know why he won't let himself die. Honestly, at this point, the chief of the village here is fed up with it. But we see that the reporter just closes her book, saying that all of the preparations have been made. She's ready to start at any time. They take Gabimaru through these tunnels to this room with his real executioner, the reporter. She wasn't just an inspector, rather a sword tester / executioner from the Yamada Asaimon clan. Her name is Sagiri. We get some context that the Yamada Asaimon clan is essentially a clan composed of these very elite sword testers and executioners who have been doing this for centuries. Genuinely, Gabimaru shocked, never having expected her to be his true executioner, as she just formally states that she has been charged with his execution. He claimed that he wished that he could just be killed, and she's here to make that wish come true. Just standing in front of her, he gets this premonition of his head being sliced off, noticing that she's for real. He instantly breaks out of his handcuffs as the village chief tells Sagiri to kill him right away. She just agrees, appearing behind him, but as she swings, he darts out to the side. She wonders why he decided to dodge. If he didn't, then he would have been dead. As Gabimaru is just thinking about it, realizing that he doesn't want to die. He dodges another one of her attacks, as she explains that throughout her years of training, she's learned that a person's true nature is always reflected in the blade of a sword. She says that when in front of execution, some people put on a brave front, others beg for mercy, while the rest lie to themselves and pretend that they've accepted death. She tells Gabimaru that he may be hollow in some sorts after the life that he's lived, but he lied about one thing. He lied when he said he had no attachments to life. He does have one thing, one person that he loves, his wife. She knows that his wife is his reason to live. We get continuations to those earlier flashbacks, but instead of being under the impression that he hated everything she was doing, we find out that she was actually the one holding him down, keeping him sane. Gabimaru just runs, taking one of the guard swords, attacking Sagiri with it, as she easily blocks, asking him why he's lying to himself. He just dares her to keep talking. She knows nothing about him or the life that he lives. He's telling her and himself that he's hollow. He's empty inside. As he rushes in for another attack, we get a flashback to Gabimaru's wife telling him that he's not hollow. He's trying to fight back, explaining that he's grown accustomed to all these ugly and terrible things. He's been killing for as long as he can remember. The only thing that he can show her is his true nature, that nature. But his wife just hugs him, telling him that he's truly kind, as he was the only one who wasn't disgusted by her face. We get a flashback seeing a younger version of herself, as she explains that she was branded by the village chief, her father, claiming that he did it so that she would give up trying to live like a normal person. But that wasn't enough to make her give up. All these things that she's having Gabimaru do, taking off his shoes as he enters the house, showing gratitude before meals, doing their daily prayers, is all so that they both can live a normal life together. Gabimaru's still trying to fight it, but she just leans in, giving him a kiss as he starts blushing and is overall flustered as she says that somebody like him couldn't possibly be hollow if a little peck on the lips is getting him this flustered. Back to real time, and he's just letting it all out, claiming that he is hollow. He's Gabimaru the hollow for a reason. He feels nothing. He's a heartless monster. No matter how hard he tries, he'll never be human. We get flashbacks to him coming home with blood all over his face and his hands as she's startled by it, but ends up smiling anyways. Seeing her hesitation, he made the decision to quit killing people and live an honest life with just him and her. He went to the village chief to leave for that reason, saying that since it's the best for his daughter, surely he'll understand. But the village chief didn't care. With his failed attempt at living a normal life as a married man, any hope at becoming human died on that mission. He's crying out during this fight that going back to a regular life is impossible, but Sagiri interrupts him, saying that it is. She pulls out this scroll stating that this is an official pardon for him to have all of his charges dismissed and even protection from the shogun himself. With this, he wouldn't have to worry about anybody from Iwagakure coming after him. He doesn't understand what's going on, but she continues to explain that his pardon comes with a condition. He must go to the other side known as paradise. Gabimaru wonders if this is just a death sentence in itself, but Sagiri says that paradise has been found. A land filled with flowers and vivid life where the immortality granting elixir of life is rumored to be found. The shogun had sent a search party out, but what returned was horrifying. They're finding dismembered body parts eerily covered in flowers and shrubbery as the shogun continued to send more expeditions out, but none of them made it back. Gabimaru just says it sounds like a fairy tale, but once they saw these strange remnants of their expeditioners' bodies, they came to the conclusion that if something like this can be real, then the elixir of life has to exist. Now, they're gathering death row convicts in order to send them over to that island and retrieve it for them in exchange for their pardoning. The only reason that Sagiri came here in the first place was to find a convict that was capable for the job. Somebody with enough skill to survive, but also the will to live. She tells Gabimaru that on her way here, he heard about his wife down in Iwagakure. Ever since he was captured, she completely cut herself off and refused to speak to anybody. She's just been waiting on his return. Sagiri asks him one more time if he has any attachments to life. This seemingly death mission is the only way that he could go back to the one person that he loves. Gabimaru is just looking off. Before he gets a chance to even respond, the village chief in the back is saying that this is ridiculous. He's not gonna sit here and let Gabimaru just go out and regain his freedom. He wants him dead right here, right now. All of the guards turn their weapons towards the two of them, saying that if they refuse to agree, then they're dead. Gabimaru, just thinking about the prospect of being able to return to his wife, is not messing around. He recalls that Sagiri said she wanted to see ninjutsu, right? As he tells her to watch closely. We see half of Gabimaru's body start going up in flames, as just like that, he takes out everybody there. He officially confirms that he'll go on this mission to go find the elixir of life and return back home. But before we see his journey begin, we get a flashback from Sagiri. She's reminiscing on this man who was sentenced to death, and the executioner was her father. The criminal was a storyteller and requested to be beheaded while telling a story. And once her father did, he continued to tell the story after his head was already chopped off. She explains that it was an execution lacking pain or suffering. And ever since that day, she's made it her life goal to replicate that same strike from her father. We get to see her performing an execution, but afterwards she sees this body of darkness climbing all around her as one of her fellow clansmen tells her that that's fear. There's fear and doubt in her strike. That's why she's experiencing this. She continues to train and work on it, but still she failed to even get closer to the strike completely devoid of emotion. She wonders how she could replicate that same strike from her father, beginning to wonder if maybe it'd be easier if the person she was striking down truly deserved it. The next thing we get is a screening of all the criminals chosen to attempt this mission over to Paradise. They've got the Shogun, the top dog, here in person, alongside a bunch of different executioners from the Yamada clan. They're all being briefed on what their mission is going to be, and Sagiri is looking at and recognizing all these different criminals, wondering if any one of them could possibly be the perfect fit for her execution. As Gabimaru's just sitting there, one of the other criminals recognize him as Gabimaru the Hollow, saying that he's real famous in the criminal world, but honestly, she's kind of disappointed at his appearance. He's way more tiny and less wicked than he sounds out to be, and on top of that, he's been captured. Maybe he's not all that tough after all. Gabimaru doesn't care what she thinks. He's like, alright, my fault, I guess. Sorry to disappoint you. He's not worried about what she's got to say, what she thinks about him, nothing. He's doing all of this for his personal gain to go back to his wife. Overhearing the conversation and looking at Gabimaru just sitting there, Sagiri gets the sense that he's not like the rest of these criminals. She wonders if he really fits in with this group, or is he really as evil and dark as the rumors say. The people up on the podium start going over the information and rumors that they've heard about Paradise, but the criminals are not trying to hear all that. They're like, man, we already heard this, bro. We don't care. Just let us go so we could get this pardon. So they just tell the criminals to unmask themselves. And once they do, they wheel in the only quote unquote survivor out of any of the expeditions that they sent out. A man who you could barely even call alive. He's not even human. By the time he came home, he was covered in these lumps, and shortly after, flowers began to sprout from everywhere in his body. This is their only real source of information, their only evidence as to what's happening over in Paradise. A handful of criminals are starting to get upset, saying that they never knew this place was going to be this dangerous. One kid asks if they barely know information about the place that they're going to, then how are they supposed to know if the elixir of life is truly there? Everybody starts getting all rowdy, but the guards say if you don't want to participate, you could just drop out. Instantly, this dude gets up like, alright, I'ma just go ahead and dip. I'm not rocking with the vibes over here. But as he gets up, starting to walk away, his head is immediately sliced off. They explain that every one of these Yamada executioners are here in order to serve as each individual criminal's monitor while on the island. Act up too crazy and your monitor will strike you down. Out of nowhere, the Shogun calls over the guard, whispering something in his ear as he goes on to announce to the group that they need to reduce the number of criminals being sent to the island. They're trying to figure out what they could possibly mean by this, as we see dude from the back already choking somebody out, explaining that they must want a death match. All of these criminals start fighting and killing each other. It just starts getting brutal, blood flying everywhere. But as we get a look at Gabimaru, he's just sitting. We get to see that the Shogun only instructed this because he wanted to see a fight to the death with his own two eyes. He knows fights like this in this day and age are few and far between. He's got this little weird attitude, and we know that the people in power, of course, are corrupt in their own ways. Just because they're not technically criminals doesn't mean they're not moving crazy. The Shogun asks one of his men, who are the criminals with the red seals? Now these criminals with the red seals are noted with particularly strong skills, superpowers some might say. As we start getting some introductions to these criminals set to go on this expedition. The person who started with the first kill was a leader of a group of bandits even at his young age. This lady in purple who called out Gabimaru is a ninja who led this big invasion not too long ago. There's this guy swinging somebody's corpse around as a sword known as the Blade Dragon. And we also get a view of this behemoth just lying there as people are trying to attack him, but he hasn't even taken his blindfold off. He's not even trying. And amongst all of them, the most infamous one, the living legend himself, Gabimaru the Hollow. Watching this all go down, we see Sagiri as she gets approached by the same man from her flashbacks, Aizen. He's telling her that the island is only going to be more brutal than what she's seeing now. He's wondering if she's going to be ready to kill when it comes down to it. Knowing the nature of this job, he he tells her that she should drop out. She's not suited for something like this. He says the daughter of a successful executioner should just stay at home and reap the benefits of her father's success. But Sagiri stops him right then and there, saying that if she could, then she would. But the way they were raised, she didn't have an option. Everybody born into the Yamada clan must make their living through people's death. Whether it's medicine on dead bodies or being an executioner, killing people, you've got no choice. We get these flashbacks seeing that she was made fun of as a kid for being a part of the Yamada clan, a clan full of executioners, and while she ran away from it at first, she's fully accepted that there is no escaping it. We hear some of the criminals say that they just gotta make a run for it. They decide to rush Sagiri, since she's a woman, to take her sword and escape with that, but she just steps up, slicing both of their heads off on the spot. But still, after killing them, she still feels this fear and doubt in what she just did. But out the side, Gabimaru says killing people is never justified, you know? Gabimaru is up there at the stand talking to the samurai and to the shogun himself as he's warned to get back. Gabimaru's explaining that some of them didn't actually want to kill, they were just forced to because of the situation. But the guards up on the stand are getting defensive and warning him to stay back or else they're gonna cut him down. But Gabimaru continues like, come on, not wanting to kill somebody is the most natural thing in the world. Why are you forcing us to do this? The samurai is fed up with Gabimaru making too much sense, I guess. I don't know. The samurai up there literally put out a hit on this man, telling them that if he kills Gabimaru, then he'll personally make sure he gets to go on the expedition. They start walking to him like, yeah, it's my time. It's an easy lick. But they must not know who Gabimaru is. He doesn't even want to fight him in the first place, but they don't care. They throw this rock at him, but he easily dodges it as they're insisting on fighting, and Gabimaru just stops resisting. He just says, fine, you leave me no choice. I guess I'll just have to kill you. As soon as he says that, these dudes are automatically spooked. Like, I thought you didn't want to kill nobody. And Gabimaru says that he doesn't, but if he has to, then he will. He doesn't really want to kill anymore, but he can't afford to die neither. He's slowly walking up to them saying that, you know, this is going to be difficult for me too. I'm going to have to hold the weight of your deaths on my mind. As he slits one of their throats with his bare hands. In just a few seconds, he's gone on this complete killing spree, killing people with his hands, his feet, biting through their necks. It's just ridiculous. Everybody seeing this with their own two eyes realize that Gabimaru is a monster. But Sagiri, looking at him, comes to the realization that maybe she's been looking for the wrong thing this entire time. Up until now, she's been trying to find the strength to not fear the executions that she will perform, but instead, she may just need the resolve to deal with the responsibility of taking those lives. After Gabimaru's little killing spree, the criminals chosen to go on this expedition are confirmed. They go through all of these introductions, but we'll get to them as they pop up. There's 10 of them, and each and every one of them is going to be accompanied by an executioner from the Yamada clan. They just go straight on their expedition across the sea as we just hear the final words from the guards on land saying that they have no reason to fear. They're going to paradise, to heaven. It's time to rejoice. Before we see them on the island, we get a flashback of a man's execution. There's constant blades piercing his skin, spears tearing his flesh apart, even his intestines falling to the ground, but still he remains standing. A young Gabimaru is just looking on, realizing that the chief of Iwagakure truly is immortal. Gabimaru was telling this story to Sagiri as they're traveling a little bit through paradise, as he's telling her that the elixir of life does actually exist, but he's not sure if here is where they're gonna find it. As they're just walking across, Sagiri is amazed at all the wildlife here, but Gabimaru thinks it's creepy. It's got all these pretty colors, but there's no rhyme or reason to any of the life growing here. It's completely unnatural. Thinking about the man they saw at the screening, he says that they just gotta stay on their toes the entire time as he snaps the rope tying his wrists together. But Sagiri tells him to tie it back up. She says it's mandatory for a criminal like him to have his hands bound, and if he got a problem, she's gonna cut him down. Gabimaru is asking her to cut him some slack. They gotta find this thing as fast as possible. They've only been given food for 3 days, and their only hint is that funky little drawing from somebody who's probably never even seen it. But Sagiri points her sword to Gabimaru's neck, saying that she's only gonna explain this once. She is his executioner, not his ally. If he's got a problem with it, she'll simply take his head off. Gabimaru just sighs and says whatever. He'll listen to these little rules as long as he can make it back to his wife. As long as she don't make the rules too ridiculous, then he's good. Nice, that's one down. He was a fool for letting his guard slip under these circumstances. He was too weak to be on this island. But Gabimaru just sits back up like, dang man, you really surprised me. He says he just dislocated his neck, but he's fine. We get a little bit of backstory on this dude, Twisted Kion, a warrior who fell in love with all different types of weapons throughout his life. But Gabimaru doesn't care about none of that. The only thing he's worried about is that his hands aren't bound together. We see that his monitor from the Yamada clan is way less strict than Sagiri. He doesn't care if the criminal's hands are bound up as long as they tie it back after they find the elixir of life. He's not gonna sit here and go back and forth with them over something like that, and it's not a big deal. Gabimaru is in Sagiri's face like, see, I told you it wasn't a big deal. Come on, why my hands bound and his not? I told you, see? As Kisho, the executioner, says that Sagiri is the lowest ranked in the Yamada clan because she's too honest. But before they can continue their little conversation, Kion just pulls out this box full of weapons, glad that he's finally found a proper test subject. Meanwhile, Gabimaru is just asking if he's done. If they waste time fighting right now, then the other people are just gonna get ahead of him and find the elixir first. But this dude is going on with the strategy of killing everybody else first so that he'll have all the time he wants to go and search for that elixir. Honestly, it's not a crazy strategy, but the first mistake was pulling up on Gabimaru. He just says that he doesn't like killing people because his wife would be upset with them, but quote unquote, I guess I have no choice. I just have to kill you. Kion rushes in, and right before Gabimaru's about to go crazy, Sagiri has him binds his hands together again in the middle of getting attacked by this dude. She's not playing. But as Gabimaru's tying his hands together, he's just constantly getting attacked by Kion. But of course, with each attack, Kion's beloved weapons are breaking. Gabimaru finally finished tying his hands together as he just says he doesn't have time for this. He takes a spear that he managed to wedge between his arm and his chest to swing Kion up in the air alongside all of his weapons, kicking a sword straight through his chest. Sagiri's impressed that one blow was all it took to take him down, but Kion stands back up, saying that they're just getting started. We cut forward to seemingly moments later, and Kion is nothing but a pool of blood, stabbed by all of those weapons that he loves so much. Gabimaru is ready to start looking for the elixir again, and Kisho just slices Kion's head off, saying that he's heading back. Sagiri just warns him to be careful on his route back to the mainland, but he asks if she really has any room to be worried for anybody else right now. She's standing next to a real criminal, a true killer. He's going on about all the types of stuff he's already seen on the island in the short few moments since they've gotten there. These criminals are willing to do whatever it takes to get that pardon. Sagiri's worried about those who are breaking the rules since the pardon will be invalidated. What's the point? But Kisho goes on to explain that the rules only matter if everybody believes in them. As long as the shogun gets what he wants, then everybody's in the clear. At the end of the day, these criminals are just criminals, just like him. He asks if Sagiri wants him to go ahead and cut Gabimaru down right now. But before he even gets the chance to put his hand on his sword, Gabimaru pulls up on him, saying, let's not waste time on these silly little jokes. They're already short on time, and the only thing he cares about is getting back to his wife. I don't know what gave him the confidence to threaten Gabimaru like this. I don't know who he think he was, but we just see him being spooked. Kisho just leaves with these parting words, saying that within the next few hours, things are gonna change. We get a view of Aizen, the one who had helped Sagiri earlier in those flashbacks, being pulled up on by the criminal he's supposed to be monitoring. And in an instant, he's killed. Kisho just explains that as more and more people die, the extras are going to be added. And as Gabimaru wonders who these extras could possibly be, Kisho says the Shogun has definitely made contact with Iwagakure, Gabimaru's hometown. He also tells Sagiri that rumor has it this job is going to determine the next head of the Yamada clan, so there's all these different stakes at play. Kisho just tells Sagiri to stay safe. She doesn't know what could happen on this island, and as he makes his leave, we see that Gabimaru has been spooked ever since Kisho mentioned Iwagakure. Sagiri's thinking about Gabimaru and that they've only been traveling for a few days at this point, but still, she doesn't understand who he really is as a person. But before she can think about it too much, he attacks. They clash swords as she asks him what he's doing, and Gabimaru just says he just wanted to give her a painless death. And Sagiri recognizes Gabimaru's true nature, a monster.